Welcome. I'm Ingrid Carlsen, and I'm so glad that you're here today. I hope that you are excited for this holiday season and that you are looking forward to making one or many Christmas journals because that's what we're doing today. I'm going to take you with me and step by step together. I'm going to hold your hand and we are going to create a beautiful, easy Christmas journal together from start and completely the beginning to completely the end. So I hope that you enjoy this process. I'm going to start off by copy dyeing some copy paper, and this is just regular copy paper that you put in your printer. And I am just mixing a mixture up of some instant coffee and warm water in this spray bottle. It's one of those continuous spray bottles, but any spray bottle will work. And then once I have like yummy puddles that I think look good, I'm going to sprinkle a little more of that instant coffee to give us just a little extra crunch and interest on our pages. I don't have access to an oven or a lot of space. I'm actually just working on my desk, and I wanted to show you that coffee dyeing doesn't have to be just in the oven or outside. If you don't have an outside area, you can do it right on your desk. Some of the papers I'm allowing to air dry, and then for the others, I'm helping it out with a heat tool, but you could also use a blow dryer. My friends call this the good stuff, and it's a mixture of glue and paints and water. And so we are going to use this to see what results we can get. What if I add just a little sprinkle throughout the paper? Here are the pages that I ended up making. So I have 8 total, and I'm just going to flip through them real quick. This is one of the first ones that was lighter, again lighter. And then here is the paper that I added the glitter on. So some of the glitter comes off, but I think where it was thick with my potion, then it stays on. So it's minimal. It's not that bad. And then I went ahead and dabbed this just on the corner right there. I thought that would be pretty. So what I'm going to start off by doing is folding all of my pages in half. So if I fold it in half, oh, that was terrible. Our 8.5 isn't going to change, but now we're going to have half of the 11, which should be about 5.5. It's just short. But I think, and I believe that's what is called a B6 size, but I think I'm going to cut it down so that it's a little smaller, like maybe something like this. Let's see. So I'm going to call it 6 3/4. So you can either fold them and then cut afterwards, or you can cut all your papers down and then fold them. I think I'm going to go ahead and fold them because the remnants that I'm going to be left with, I'll just use as remnants. Oh, I have something to share with you. I have a show recommendation, and it's called The Way Home on Hallmark. I actually watched the first 2 seasons on Netflix, and then I asked my husband to get me Hallmark, which I believe includes the Christmas movies, so I figured it was a perfect time of year to do that. Okay, I almost completely ditched my plans and went with a ring bound journal, but I started thinking about it and I'm going to do one of those. I'm planning on doing several Christmas journals this year, so I decided to take this Dollar Tree book that I'd gotten. If you watched any of my Dollar Tree shop with me haul videos, then you probably recognize this. So I'm going to cut this apart with you. It is a little bit shorter and a little bit wider, but I think once we expand the spine, and then also I think I'm going to split it up and I'm going to add some papers. So I took some, let's see, some of this is like linen paper. Some of this, I was experimenting on different types of substrates. This is, I think this is this, which is like newsprint, and I cut it down. So I have a video where I show how to print on tissue paper. And I was going to do, or I think I've run my newsprint the same way because it's pretty thin, but I got adventurous and I moved my printer. It's downstairs. We have a little desk and I was able to, I have like a chair where I can just sit and print. And so I thought, okay, worst case, it gets stuck. I can remove it if we get a paper jam. And so I went ahead and ran it through without anything at the bottom, and it ran through. I also did the Japanese rice paper or calligraphy paper from Daiso, which I think is this one. I mean, look how thin this is. And I printed on the glossy side because it has 2 sides, one that is matte and one that's glossy. This is probably my favorite paper. So if you've thought about getting it and you don't know, I'll see if I can list some in my Amazon storefront and put it here for you guys so that you can get some, because to me, this is almost better than tissue paper because it's just more sturdy, and I was able to run this through by itself. Now, this one did get stuck, so you can see this, but I think it was my fault the way that I loaded it. So this actually is 2 prints. It's a like a ledger paper, and this paper here, this plaid, which I'll show you that kit in just a second. I think I'm done with it. I think it's going to be a little bit smaller. Anyways, I think you're going to love it. But I actually love the edge. So because I was sitting there, I was able to, and that could have been me because I was trying, it started printing kind of a little bit on an angle. So I tried to straighten it out, and I think that's where this came in, but it came out okay. This is, again, the same, I think it's the same paper as this. And actually, I have 2 different calligraphy types. This was one which is a little thinner, and this is the other one which is a little thicker. And then I was playing around and I decided to print ledger on the back of this, but I don't know what happened. All of the color from my ledger went away, but I thought it's actually really pretty. I think this is linen paper. This is some cardstock, and so I printed these to actually add to the pages, so we're going to do that. And before we do that, I'll do a quick flip through. We'll start with the paper. So this is a very traditional Christmas kit. I love it. This one does not have distressing. It is not super grungy or anything like that, but what it is, it's traditional, it's beautiful. I am in love with it. I just realized I think I have it's like a navy blue and gold. So this one's gold with the red and white. The other one is navy blue, the where you see the red, it's actually gold, I think. And then the background is kind of a tan color or an off, maybe off-white. Aren't these so pretty, these plaids? And then this is the ephemera kit or portion. I love these, the Merry Christmas. They look like the little beads. There's 2 sets of envelopes. They're the same envelopes, I just colored them differently. And this, like I said, it's very traditional Christmas. It's just, I don't know, for me, it was like all the feels, some horseshoes, old keys, pine cones, these beautiful mercury glass ornaments, this little ornate piece, some little packaging, some wreaths and trees. I thought these would be really great. When I built this one, I built it on how I could layer the pieces. And so this kit is a little different than my other kits that I do. Usually I have ephemera more like let's say like this, but with this one, I specifically created it so that I can layer this piece on top of this piece and then maybe this one sticking out so that I could get a lot of texture. And it's going to go, even though it's traditional, it's going to go really beautifully with the other 2 kits. Where were we? I love this image right here. It's one of my favorites. It's like a old book stamp. This one, I love these little railroad tickets. And then the bows, all the bows, love the bows. Some leather luggage, whatever those are called. And then some like little felt pieces and some clay pieces. But I cannot wait. I had plans that kind of changed, but we're going to roll with the punches and we're going to keep going. I also kept this piece of newsprint in case I'm going to use this as well. I'm just going to put that to the side. I think I won't use it for the pages, but I will use it for layering. 1, 2, 3. So I think I'm going to do 3 pages. On each one, so that's 24 pages total if you do 1, 2, 3, 4, on the other side. So that thing is bothering me. So I'm gonna just play around with this and see what looks good where. I'm gonna add some of this in between and then just I think instead of cutting it, I am going to just use my ruler and rip it. And that's what I should have done with this in the first place, instead of cutting it with my cutter. But I love that cutter. And if you haven't checked that out, it's on my Amazon storefront. It's a really great price for it. I found it and I love it. It cuts more than one piece. I think we did like a little demo of it, but it's really great. So on like something like this, which, how I don't have this, like this was not included in the kit, but I've kind of already created this. Maybe I'll just include it in the kit. But I think I mix and match them. So like I think this is from the whimsical kit and this is from the traditional kit. So I'll have to just decide, I'll just throw it into one. But I think I'll add it because I think you might like it, right? Do you like it? Do you like it? Tell me you like it. But I think that this would be a lot of fun to have because then you have the 2 pages. And if you have the ability to print double-sided, then you can, print another pattern, let's say, on the back. Or you could even do, the 2 and print it, and then you have four images. So, okay, I'm just gonna start folding and see what we come up with. No plan really, just messing around and seeing what we get. I am gonna try to be a little cognizant of where, like I would love to be able to keep all this, but I'm not going to be able to unless I cut it. So this might get cut. You know what else I could do? What if I could do like a half page? I like that. I like the idea of that. That way everything's not uniform. So I might do that. I'm going to go ahead and move this now that we're not working with any liquids or paints. When I first started creating journals, the thing that was scariest for me was the construction of a journal. I don't know if it was because I really didn't have faith in myself that I could create something that would last for a long time, or if it was that I didn't think I had the right formula to make something. And thankfully, I'm here to tell you I've lived through it, I've done it, and I want to really hold your hand and tell you that you can do this. You can build this journal. If I could do it, you can do it. And I'm not saying that lightly. For a long time, it was a fear that was debilitating for me. I don't know if you feel the same way, but if you do, I want you to know that I understand how that feels. I understand what you're going through, and I want to tell you that it's very easy and hard. The first step is hard. It's like anything else. You have to kind of jump into the deep end. But what is really great is that the water is awesome over here. So I want you to come in with me. I promise I won't let anything bad happen to you. We are going to just take some papers, and I started this off without any plan so that you could see that, you know, it's not anything that is set in stone at this point. The signature is just a suggestion. We can always cover all of these pages with more paper. We can always paint over these pages. We can distress them more. We can add more coffee to them. This is just our base. And I think that when we remove that pressure of this being the end all be all, that then you can start to enjoy the process and just take your beautiful papers and layer them. For this, I had pulled out pages that I think I had 6 pages of signatures, and I decided to do 3 instead and then layer some of the printed papers. I think on one I did 3, on the other I did 4. Again, there really is no right formula. What I will tell you though is when you're first starting out, use whatever you have on hand. It doesn't matter if it's copy paper, if it is printed paper, if it is paper packs that you got at Michael's or Hobby Lobby. It's going to be perfect. It's going to be wonderful. Don't worry that it's not double-sided. Like I said, we can cover that with other paper. That was something else that I always struggled with. I saw all these beautiful double-sided papers and I was like, I don't have that. I don't have the ability to do that. And I want to encourage you right now that you don't need that. You don't need anything fancy. Just start with what you have for the base. Now for the next level, if you're ready for that level, then I would say something that I would recommend is printing on different types of papers, like I showed you before when I was doing the flip through. If you can print on newsprint or on tissue paper, if linen paper, or even different thicknesses of paper. So if you have copy paper that is 20 GSM, I think that's what, or pounds, 20 pounds, and then you have another one that's 28 pounds, the more texture that you have in your journal, just the more interest that it gives. But again, we can kind of fake this later on when we're building it. So don't put too much pressure on this. I'm just giving you tips of what I would do. The other thing that I think is really going to take your journal to the next level or make it feel more rich, even if you don't have fancy papers or you don't have all the stuff, is change the edges. Have some edges be longer than others, like you're seeing here where they're cascading, or where some peek up above the others, and then tear them. It's okay, be messy. They don't have to be in a straight line. Who said that your journal has to be perfectly manicured? Now, if that's your thing and you can't stand the deckled edges or the ripped up edges, then absolutely get your X-Acto knife and your cutting mat and make sure that all of your papers are perfect. But I want to tell you that this is your journal. Your perfect is different than my perfect. So don't measure what I'm doing to what you're doing, because it might not be the right thing. And on that note, one thing I can tell you is that my style has evolved. I've gone from messy to neat back to messy again. So just play. I want to warn you here that I kept this part of the video in because I wanted you to see how I stack the papers, especially for newbies and experts alike. You might want to see my process with designing, the pieces that I have in my signature. And by the way, the signature is just the group of papers that gets sewn in or glued into your cover. That's what a signature is, and all books have them. So I left this part of the video in, even though for whatever reason I must have messed with the setting and it is blurry. So it's not your eyes, it is blurry. I debated on whether I should take it out or not, and I decided to go ahead and keep it in, and hopefully you can see past the blurriness. But thankfully it doesn't last too long, and we're going to get in focus in just a minute. Okay, now talking about the construction of the book. I'm taking this Dollar Tree board book that I had gotten, and if you've watched any of my Dollar Tree videos, then you've seen it before, and I'm going to cut it apart. Now, I wanted to show you how you could cut it so that you could take that whole signature out, but I'm actually going to cut the two sides, or the front and the back covers out, and have the spine over to the side. But don't get rid of your spine. There's stuff that you can do with it, and they're just charming and lovely, and just keep it over with your scraps. You won't you'll be more sorry if you get rid of it. But anyways, I'm just showing you here how I am cutting them out. If you wanted to keep your spine, you could, but I want to expand my spine so that I have more room, because I always run out of room. I am an overlayerer. If you've been with me, you already know that, and hopefully you love that about me. So I'm going to show you how we're going to make the spine, but in the meantime, I'm going to layer this cover with some gesso. I'm going to do 2 full coats. In between the first and the second coat, I'm going to dry it completely. That means no wetness at all. And then in between the second and the kind of third layer, I'm going to barely dry it, because I want that gesso to move around to create this really yummy texture that you're going to see here. So after our second coat is almost completely dry, I wanted to show you something. So even though if I were to touch it like this, it feels like it's dry, if you watch carefully, see how I could indent it a little bit? It's still wet. So this part might be hard for some of you. At the top of the list, it's Ingrid. Ingrid has the hardest part with this. I'm going to push this over to the side and allow it to completely dry. And so that's going to mean probably a couple of hours. So in the meantime, have something else to do. Hindsight, this would be better to be done first before you start doing your papers. That way you can hindsight you would do this probably first instead of doing your papers. That way it gives it time to dry, but you can go ahead and work on other stuff. Maybe I will fussy cut some pieces out, or I will work on something else that I have in store, but let it dry. I promise it'll be worth it. It won't peel as much. It will give you longevity. It'll just be better overall. And then you can decide if you want another coat. As you can see through this, you can, or as you can see here, you can see through this and you can see parts of the words and stuff. I think that adds to the charm. I'm going to leave it. And I think that the 2 coats is perfect. And I think that the amount of texture on it is perfect as well. Since I need to waste a little time while my covers dry, I'm going to go through this book and harvest some of the images. This is not the style that I'm going for, especially for a Christmas journal. Now, what I could do is I could look at the words and see if there's any words that I want to cut out. So the thing with this book is one side has an image and like kind of like a cheeky, jokey thing, and the other side is a pattern. So I'm going to push down right here. And you can see as I'm pushing down, it's exposing the center. And so I just want to pull it apart kind of. And then I'm going to take this and pull it out. So when I was looking at these, they definitely don't match. They're green, but the green is wrong. So I decided to distress it all, and I'm going to started by sanding the edges and all around, and then now I'm going to go ahead and take some of my coffee mixture . This is a really good time to say that I know, like when I was first starting out and I didn't have a ton of supplies and stuff, I kind of made up my own stuff a lot. And that is something that I want to encourage you to do. If you feel like, well, I don't have the papers, I don't have the stuff. This is a book from Dollar Tree that we are distressing so that it fits the aesthetic. It didn't look like it. It was not something that I would pick up and say, oh, this is definitely going to match this Christmas kit 100%. But we're going to make it work, and we're going to make it beautiful. And then I'm going to allow this to sit on here and just kind of dry naturally. Because when you hit the dryer tool, especially mine, the heat tool that I have, it's going to move the puddles. I want them to stay. I kind of like the way that they are. And so I might add just like little drops of coffee. And this is the instant coffee. And it's just like a tiny bit, and you want it to just dissolve in those puddles. Really good. And the pieces like this that didn't get, they don't have a lot of water on them, we'll just dust those off later if we need to. Also on the spots where there's less water, I'm going to very lightly dust. And I'm just going to let it sit there and let the water do its thing, kind of like watercolor. I'm going to let the water dictate how much it wants to spread, how much it wants to stain, how much it wants to hold on to the instant coffee, and then we'll all be surprised together. Look at all of this lovely texture that we got using our coffee dye, and I just, like I said before, I let it just sit on there so it just naturally accumulated. Now, after I started rolling, I did sprinkle a little extra coffee, and you can see it right here, and it's still a little wet. You can see that indent right there. I don't know if that's going to completely dry or if I'm going to have to peel it off. So, but we'll keep it for now. I also wanted to show you, these are completely dry now. You can also see once it dries, you're going to be able to see more of the original cover. And then I have to decide, I think I'm going to cover these in paper instead of gessoing. Originally I was thinking about gessoing, but I think we'll just do it with some paper. So now I need to decide what I want to do as far as a spine. So originally I was thinking I was going to do fabric, but I think I'm going to do my trick with the paper where I just score at like 1/4 of an inch over and over again so that it's like a very expandable spine, and I think that'll be the best. And with something like that, you could always add fabric at the end, and maybe that's what we'll do, but we'll start with that. This is probably hands down one of my favorite ways to bind my journals, and that's because there aren't really strict measurements. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start by taking a piece of 8.5 by 11 cardstock and scoring it at 1 inch, and then I'm going to score every single line till I get to the 3-inch mark. This measurement right here from the 1 inch to the 3 inches is the actual width of my spine. So in my case, it's going to be 2 inches wide. Then once I get to the 3-inch mark, I'm going to measure over to the 4-inch mark and score that there. Just to make things easier, since I'm on camera and I don't have to cut and go use my guillotine cutter, I'm just going to fold at the 4-inch mark and just tear it by hand. And that is the piece that is my binding. It's super easy, and I love that it's kind of accordion. It has a lot of movement, and so it makes it really easy to even add binding after you've already bound it, and you don't have to worry about it being too rigid. Now those two pieces on the end that each measure 1 inch, those are going to be the hinges that are attaching to our journal covers. In my case, it's going to be those board books that I covered with gesso. And to make sure that they stick really well, I'm actually going to use 2 types of adhesive. I'm going to use a roll-on adhesive. It's a dry glue. And then I'm also going to use some wet art glitter glue on here. And if you don't have 2 types of glue, my biggest tip is that the most important thing when gluing anything, it's the contact that the 2 substrates have with one another. So meaning in this case, it's my paper and my book cover. So I want to make sure that I burnish it, I push it down really well, that I make sure that there are no air bubbles. And then the most important, probably crucial part of this is that I let it dry completely. If you can allow especially if you're doing covers, to dry overnight, you're going to get the best results, and they very likely will never come apart. And I know you probably don't want to hear this, but we're going to let this dry for a few hours. So I'm actually going to stick it underneath a book so that, or maybe two books, so that this makes a really strong adhesion, and I don't have to worry about it going anywhere. This is all of the kits. Look at all that. Eat. So I think because this is going to be the November Christmas journal, then I'm going to make this as a very eclectic, maybe mix all three of the kits together. And that also gives me a chance to show you that you can do this and you can mix and match them. So they are designed to go within one another. But I think that there's a lot of mixing and really pretty images that can work in cohesion together. You know what I mean? So let's go ahead and just start creating. I don't have a plan. We're just going to do it together. I have a question for you. So in my videos, sometimes I go over what my design process is when I am decorating, but I want to know if that is something that you're interested in hearing, or if you like it better that I just don't talk and let you watch through the process. I've just recently decided that all of my videos that I do on YouTube, I cut out a lot of stuff. I cut out a lot of the extra cutting, or, you know, the pieces that maybe aren't as interesting. But those are going to be the pieces that I'm going to show on my Patreon and give more of a time-stamped explanation of what I'm doing, why I'm doing those things. So I would love to know which you prefer. If you want to know more in depth of why I'm choosing certain papers, or if you like to just watch the process. I'm going to give you a little bit today. So because this is the cover of my journal, I knew one thing, and that is that I wanted to have a lot of textures. Whenever I am working with a lot of different layers, whether that is layering a cluster or in this case the cover, I am not worried about the papers getting covered up. I'm not worried about covering pieces that I might not be able to see. It's giving me a look. It's just like a little peek through, and it just adds a bit of character. The other thing that I do is I don't really worry about it being matchy-matchy. I'm going more for an aesthetic or a feeling, and how I feel when I put those papers together. Normally, I wouldn't have put this mustard colored paper on top of the green paper. My head said to do red, but I love the contrast on it. The yellow almost calms the green down and gives it a little piece of vintage feel to it. And so I want to encourage you that when you're creating, don't look at it as just trying to match everything. Instead, look for that feeling in your heart when you say, you know what, these pieces look together. And sometimes that takes longer than other times, and those are the pieces that I edit out for you guys, so you don't have to sit here and watch me struggle with two different pieces of paper. But I do want you to know that I do that. The other thing about the cover is I knew that I wanted to add a label, and in this case I went with this one that says Glad Tidings. I love the pop of red, and it brings out the red in the bottom piece, or the first green piece that I have underneath. And then to kind of mimic some snow, I took my art glitter glue and just added a little bit up at the top right of the label as well as the bottom, and I sprinkled on some of this gold dusting. I guess it's glitter, but it's more of a dust. It's you can see it's very, very fine. It almost looks like sand, but I absolutely love the way that it came out. Like how adorable it is. So I had it for something else, but it was sitting on my desk, so I put it right there and I thought that would be so cute. Plus, it's really squishy and it would give the journal just like a really nice feel. Whenever you pick it up, you're gonna feel that little cushiony heart. And so I decided to go ahead and make one, but make it match a little bit more. So I picked out this fabric. I actually made my daughter some overalls when she was little for Disney that were Mickey Mouse or Minnie Mouse, and I use this fabric, so it's really special to me. And then I use this like lime green embroidery floss, and I'm going to just backstitch the whole thing, but I think it's going to look really cute layered like that. You already know that if you are watching my hand stitching, it's that I have already cut apart all of the pieces where I stumbled, because I am absolutely the worst hand stitcher that you've probably ever seen. And so these are just the aesthetic pretty pieces that I'm showing you. I also wanted to show you that the inside of my heart is actually stuffed with remnant fabrics. I'm just cutting it in little bits and stuffing it in there, and I love that billowy pillow texture that it gives. It's so squishy and satisfying, and for me, I kind of struggle with texture sometimes, with things being too scratchy, and this is just the perfect texture for me. This little heart was kind of an afterthought because I had found the other one on my desk, and I have to say that it's actually one of my favorite pieces, and I'm so glad that I took the time to do some hand stitching so that I could have it on the cover. And I just got the idea that this could be added in all types of sizes and shapes, and I am definitely going to make more of these. To finish off the heart, I went ahead and cut around the edge or the perimeter, and I started off by leaving about a quarter of an inch, but then I decided that I wanted it to be a little tighter, and then I just distressed it with my finger so that you can see all those nice little threads and the distressing, and I think that it came out so adorable. Lastly, I'm going to stitch it on to this piece of the journal. That way I can make sure that it stays put. You could always glue it in place, but also I think the stitching adds just more personality. I think that maybe layering this on some book page is really cute. And what I actually love about this book page is that it says of lipstick because it had worn off when she ate popcorn earlier, and I thought it just looked good. And then down here it says the motel room in decent lighting, which again I think kind of goes with the photo. And this is the book. Once it's dried, I let it dry overnight, and now it's ready. And I do have it upside down, so I could use it like this, and I could use it like this. I think that I like the texture of this the best, so it's going to go up here like this. And then I want to think about a closure too, if I want something that is attached to this. So one option that we have is I can hole punch the front and the back, and then string some ribbon or binding around it. I could leave it as is and have ribbon that binds around this way, which I normally like to do because when I'm working, then the ribbon's not in the way. And then also it'll allow it, then it can be as big as you want. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what we're going to do. I think what I'm going to start with is I'm going to tie in the signatures. And then once the signatures are in, then we'll attach the front. But we don't want it to get messed up while we're attaching the signatures. I'm going to do a simple 3-hole pamphlet stitch, and I think that's it. And I don't think I'm going to measure too much on this one. I think I'm just going to stick it in. And now I just have to find my signatures. Where did they go? There they are. They're just hidden underneath piles. So the first thing I want to do is decide which signature goes in front. I don't know. I'm drawn to this one. What would you do? Would you stick it in the front or in the back? Okay, I think I like this because I like the way that the back has that really ripped and textured edge. I think that works out. So this is probably the most cumbersome part of making journals, is the binding, but it really doesn't have to be. The main thing that I would say here, if you can learn anything from my mistakes, is always hold down your pages with some kind of either a bull clip or paper clips or something like that, so that it doesn't move when you're stitching. And you think it's not going to move, but it always does. And then the other thing that I would say is don't take it too serious. Now remember, we talked about possibly adding some fabric on this spine once we're done. So I'm going to go ahead and allow the tails of my journal to be on the inside, which I think I typically do. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of line this up. I can somewhat line it up on the lines that are there, but it's like I said, I'm not going to be too precious about it. I find that when I am too precious about it, I don't do this stuff. I get scared that it's not going to turn out well. I do want to go back here more. Okay. I think right here is good. I'm just going to hold that down. For my thread, I'm just going to use embroidery floss, and I am going to wrap it in wax. Okay, I think I want green, even though I think the last binding I did was green, but I feel like, what if we do brown? No. Yeah. Let me think. No, let's do green. So it's between, I have this one, which is like a sage green. It's very pretty. And then of course I have that color, which I love. So I think I'm going to go with that sage green. It was not my first pick or my first idea, but I like the way that it looks. So I'm just going to go with that. So we're going to do 1, 2, roughly 3 times the length of our journal. And I'm just going to wrap this. I don't even know if I do this correctly, but this is how I do it. I told you that the stitching is going to be very easy. I'm actually going to do a simple 3-hole pamphlet stitch, and if you want a slowed down tutorial, then I will link a video down in the description below of a full tutorial that I've made where I show you a 5-hole pamphlet stitch. This is just an easier version of that with less holes. But I am going to pause here for a moment and show you a little diagram that I made that kind of explains it, I think, a little bit better. As you can see, we're going to start off with the number 1, which this is the inside of the signature. So I'm going in through the middle hole. I'm coming up from the outside through the front hole, and then I'm going to go all the way down to the 3rd hole, go through that hole and come back through the middle hole, and that's it. Then you're going to tie it in a knot and it should stay put for you. Perfect, easy, and it always works. Now here comes a little confession. So because I still have a little bit of the stigma of creating a journal and the pressures that come with it, I tend to focus on the creation process and the decorating process. And sometimes when I get to the part where I have to stitch, I become overzealous and I forget it. But I'm going to break it down into 3 parts that you need to do. Number 1, you need to attach your signature to your cover so that it doesn't move. Number 2, you need to make a template. I'm going to show you here that I'm going to use just a little piece of scrap paper to make a template on my second signature. And the third thing is you want to poke your holes on the spine of your journal first and then poke them through your signature. That way you can make sure that you already have holes in place and it's just easier in case you get a little mixed up. So I'm pretty happy with this. What I will say is, if you saw on the second one, I decided to make a little makeshift template here, and that worked out much better. I forgot that part. Sometimes I forget because I'm so anxious to get started. So the other tip that I would definitely suggest that you do is so first clamp it down. Second is to make a template. Other than that, it's pretty easy. So now we have this done. Let's go ahead and just add some paper. We're not going to decorate this right now because I think this video is getting too long, but we can, you know what? I might be able to decorate. No, I don't want to do that. We're going to decorate these back covers and then add the front cover to it, or the the front embellishment to it. Now I could end up waiting on this just to see if I want to cover this in fabric. Because I think that just takes it up another level. Like, I love the white, but I love the fabric too. So maybe I'll hold off. I will pin this and put it behind me so that I can reach for it when I'm ready, and we'll cover the spine first. If you're still with me, I am so happy. Congratulations. We did it. We're almost done. We're going to just now decorate, or at least place some paper down in the front and back of our covers. And I went with this really pretty paper that has these bows on it because when you open your book, this is one of the first things that you see, and I just thought it was sweet and romantic, and I love the way that it looks. And remember, this again is like the signatures where you can still cover it as much or as little as you want. Then I went ahead and decided to go ahead and cover my spine with that fabric. And like I told you before, this was a fabric that is very special to me. And as I was recording this, I was thinking, you know, if you have any of your kids' old clothing, you could cut it up and put it on the spine. And not just that, but you could use anything. It doesn't have to be your kids. It could be your parents. It can be your best friends. It could be something that you love to wear that maybe has a hole in it and you don't want to get rid of it, but now you want to commemorate it and have it live on forever. Lastly, don't forget that when you're putting the cover on, if you're doing it like I'm doing it, then you want to use a good amount of adhesive and make sure that you burnish it really well and that you don't have any air bubbles, and let it sit. And that way you can guarantee that it'll stay put. One of the reasons that I started doing YouTube tutorials is because when I started scrapbooking, there weren't a ton of tutorials out there. And as a visual learner, I wanted to see what others were doing. I wanted to get inspired by ideas. The idea for me is that if you're copying the way that I'm doing it, exactly. You can be using the exact same papers. You can use the same glue, everything. That's how you're going to grow. Eventually, you'll start getting your own ideas and put your own twists into it and think of better ways than the ways that I've done things. And that is how you grow as an artist. And so I hope that that is the case here, and that this video, as well as any of my other videos, have inspired you to go and create something beautiful. I want to thank you so much for being here, for your love and your comments. They truly do mean the world to me. I am, of course, behind again, but I'm trying to get caught up. But in the meantime, I do want to tell you that I see your love and I feel it, and it literally fills me up every time, every comment that I read. I just thank you from the bottom of my heart. And in case you haven't heard it today, I want to remind you that you are beautiful, you are strong, you are important, your voice matters, and you are loved unconditionally. Until next time, love you. Bye. Oh, and congratulations for making maybe your first journal or maybe your 100th journal. Until next time. Bye.